Okay, there we go. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Gin and Tonic Show, panel discussion show about Islam and the Muslim world. We've changed up the panel a little bit. I'm your host, Atheismo. Klingschor may be running a bit late. Joining us this week is Stopspamming and Godless Saudi. Thank you for joining us, gentlemen. Okay, so if you at any time want to join the panel for a discussion of the topic of your choice, you can discuss what the panel is discussing or bring up a topic unique of your own. The topic is certainly not limited to things about Islam. It can be religion, politics, philosophy, whatever you like. Just send a contact request on Skype to The Gin and Tonic Show. Please do not call into the show. We will call you when we're ready to take guests. We will take them in the approximate order that they called, but also if you have a counterpoint to the panel, you'll be allowed to cut in line. When you are accepted and brought into the call, please make sure to mute and minimize your blog TV, otherwise you will hear and see everything twice on a lag, which will disorient you and disrupt the flow of the show. Anyone who calls into the show is advised that we are broadcast live across blog TV and also recorded for later upload on YouTube. Okay, I don't think I forgot anything. So, news items of this week. See, Tunisia has its new president now. Opposition party has boycotted the vote, but nevertheless they have a new president. Saudi Arabia is still executing people for thought crimes, namely witchcraft this week. Made the headlines of the atheist media blog thing. Christopher Hitchens has passed away. We wish his family and loved ones well. And also in the no good thing lasts forever category, the Iraq war has formally been declared over by the Obama administration. Sad face. Okay, so, gentlemen, thoughts on the recent news? Anything?
Well, I can only confirm this. There's not very much. You summed it up so beautifully. Okay, I think we all miss Christopher Hitchens. His thoughts will live on, but he will be missed in a person. And the rest, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, I think we're just going to dive right in and take our first caller. It's the Puppy Turtle, who has a question about holy books. Oh, also, this week, if we get an abundance of callers, I'm going to try to limit people to about 10 minutes a caller. I've watched a lot of our old material, and I realize that sometimes 2 or 3 callers will dominate the whole show. I'll only use that old format if we have a relative lack of callers. But if there's an abundance of them, we'll try to limit callers to about 10 minutes each so that we get everybody in. Oh, looks like there's a hiccup in the call. Who else? Oh, I think it's just Puppy that we lost. Godless and Spam, can you still hear?
Yeah, but not Puppy Turtle.
Yes.
Okay, well, we'll wait for his to reestablish. Since we have 2 new panelists, why don't we have you guys introduce yourselves? I think that Stop Spamming is pretty well known amongst the Gin and Tonic viewing crowd. But Godless Saudi, you're new to the panel. Why don't you tell us a little about yourself?
Yeah, I'm an ex-Muslim from Saudi Arabia. My family are still Muslim Sunnis, and I no longer live there, but I visit from time to time, and it's all good.
So what led to your deconversion?
I don't know. I was skeptic from a younger age, and the Islam never appealed to me, especially the book, the Holy Quran. I always thought of it as silly and incoherent. Especially the first half of the book. It's always repeating itself, just ad nauseum, threatening the kuffars, threatening the Ahl al-Kitab, or we call them the Jews and Christians, and calling them names. I never thought of it as a book from God, just a holy book.
When we were doing a test the other day, I made the observation that near the end of the Quran, which isn't its chronological end, but where all of the shorter surahs end, it seems like Muhammad begins to treat the Quran like it's his own personal Twitter page, and he makes these very short, clipped surahs denouncing individual people, like the guy who said that his his lineage would be cut off. He just has 3 lines towards that guy, and then of course there's the one about Abu Lahab that came up when we were talking with Hamza Sortsis. It's really like a Twitter page where a lot of them are just personal attacks or retorts against other people, like, at this guy, screw you, and that's
Yes.
allegedly a message from God. I really don't understand how
Yes,
people are,
especially about his personal life and his wife's. Like every time he has conflict with his wife, or he has problems, God, like, right away revealed a verse, advising his wife to obey, and threatening that he could change them anytime with better wives.
well, he
So,
certainly ended up doing that from time to time.
But Godless, are you still living in an Islamic country now?
No.
Why don't you give us like your exact details so that when you go back to visit your family, the authorities can just be waiting for you at the airport?
No, I was just interested whether you actually go and tell other people about this, or whether you are, because, I mean, if I live in an Arabic country or Islamic country, I will not necessarily be talking about anything religious. So I keep very
Yes.
quiet about my beliefs, except if I am asked. But normally this does not happen.
My family knows that I'm an ex-Muslim, but not my friends and the neighbors. I never talk about religion with them.
So we got Puppy Turtle back. Puppy, what do you have for us?
Yes, I have an amusing little hypothetical dilemma for you guys, and that is this. I want you to imagine that God appears before you and presents you with two holy books, and essentially says one of them is his inspired word, the other one is false, and they both outline a religion, a monotheistic religion. All of its tenets are completely compatible with what little you've just seen of God. And essentially he tells you, if you pick the wrong holy book, then you will be the practicer of the wrong religion and therefore go to hell. If you pick the right one, you'll go to heaven and have eternal bliss. Now, the first holy book is as far as you can tell, pretty much inerrant. There are some fuzzy spots, but nothing that a good exegesis can't clear out. And it also has no science. It has just nothing notable that's particularly right or wrong about science. The other one has complex and accurate diagrams of the cell. It contains it contains a formula for quantum gravity, which you, upon submitting to some people, realize is correct. It has every bit of scientific foreknowledge you can imagine, but in one location, just as an innocuous statement, it mentions how it mentions something like the speed of light being about half of what it really is, or something like that. It has one small scientific error, but otherwise it has these massive amounts of scientific foreknowledge. Do you pick that holy book to trust your soul to, or the one with nothing about science that's particularly right or wrong?
Oh, actually, I like this question. Which Stopper, Godless, you want to go first?
Yeah, it would be the latter. Because if it only has one scientific error, it says you could find an explanation, or you could justify the errors. Maybe
there is no explanation for the error. It's a clear scientific error, clearly outlined in the original language.
Yeah, but you could say the book is twisted, or someone added this error later on. You could, somehow justify it. So
even though it was given by God himself?
Yeah, because you could say that the error is not from God. You could say just people added it or something. Yeah, it's not necessarily from God.
Okay, I find the premise is a little bit off here. Because if you're going to tell me that there's a God, you first have to define, is this a perfect God who never makes a mistake?
Yes.
In which case, this would not be possible. But if I say that this is just somebody who's claiming to be a God, and your actual question is along the lines of, okay, look, just forget about the details, just tell me which book. then I will say the one with more facts. Because at least if there's a scientific error, I can get my teeth around this and understand where the error comes from, whereas the other one is pure spiritual well, nonsense, which does not have anything that you can check or that you can verify. So if you're talking to a rational skeptic, then there is only one answer. But like I say, you first have to get the premises and the definitions right, which in this case is not the case.
Yeah, well, the thing is, you know, I think a lot of people would be willing to say that the book with the single error but all the other useful information, that the single error was some sort of test. And it was to see if we would spot it. You know, it's not that God was lying. First of all, you know, I've heard a couple of different of these different situations where if God appeared before you. The first thing is, I'd want to ask him as many questions as I could before he jetted off if this magical being appeared for me, and I somehow came immediately to the conclusion that it was God. But my answer is that I would take all of the useful stuff from the second book, but I don't know, it really depends on the content of the first book. I mean, here's the thing. If he's going to give us these two books in this sort of situation, even though, you know, it's this very powerful being, I'm really going to worry what his intentions are. Why would he give us a book that had a piece of false information and the other one true? You understand? I mean, I know that this might seem a cliche from you, because I've heard from some theists say, oh, well, you know, even if God appeared before you, you'd still probably not believe. It's just that I wouldn't, if the dichotomy is the classic Abrahamic dichotomy of heaven versus hell, then no, even if a magical being appeared before me, I wouldn't jump into the decision with both feet. You understand? So I wouldn't reject or accept anything outright until I'd read. Well, I mean, in your scenario, I'm guessing that we've had the chance to read through both books fully. But you know, I would take the useful stuff from the book that had the one error, but obviously the book that is flawless, although you didn't go really into what it contained. I guess it's just rituals that make this God happy or what have you. Obviously, if the criteria for the correct religion is to be flawless, then the flawless book is likely the accurate in terms of religious doctrine. But there's no good reason to reject outright the you know, the useful information in the second incorrect book. You know?
I didn't say you have to. I mean, the reason I asked this question, my motivation behind it is Muslims will often present a lot of supposed scientific foreknowledge and scientific miracles. And to me, honestly, I in my personal life, I actually consider the Bible to be kind of like the first one. It has no particularly wrong or correct information on science, in my opinion. I realize you'll probably dispute that.
Yeah. Whereas
the Quran, it may be right in some places, but it's also horrifically wrong in some places. So, I mean, it's like a scientific mirror. This is actually something late in YouTube terms Ed said to me, something along the lines of, it doesn't have to be right, it just has to not be wrong.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is a lot of the information revolving around the verses that are construed as scientific miracles, you know, they don't seem, from my perspective, to have been written with any kind of predictive idea in mind. He would just say, well, you know, look at this thing in nature, isn't that impressive? And then they'll, you know, what happens is later apologists will, you know, try to dissect every last word and say that, well, this is a metaphor for that, this is a euphemism for that. And of course, there was this dust up between P.Z. Myers and the IERA, wherein they were making this, you know, bold claim about embryology in the Quran, and he said, well, what, you know, your interpretation is wrong. And then they said, well, we have a new interpretation, and expected him to defend his old argument, but their new claim was much less ambitious. You understand? It was probably more like the you know, original intention of the author, you know. So I would say that a lot of the passages, the original passages that are used to make these scientific miracles aren't necessarily incorrect themselves. It's these modern apologists who try to twist and distort them to make them say something that they're not really saying. Anyway, you wanted to come back?
Yeah. I once had a Muslim apologist named something along the lines of Islamophilic on my channel. I have a video, 7 Scientific Miracles Debunked. He says in that video, in his 7 astonishing Quran scientific miracles or whatever, that when it says there that an idol could not create a fly, and if it were to take it from them, they couldn't take it back. According to this guy, that's scientific foreknowledge because, unbeknownst to Muhammad at the time, when a fly takes a food particle, they can only suck liquid. So they spit and vomit on the food particle before drinking it. So if you were to track them down and kill them to get your food particle back, well, they've already spit and vomited on it before they've even eaten it, so you can't get it back. This is proof of the Quran because it knows that flies have to spit on their food because it says you can't get food back from flies.
Yeah, and like I said before, I really doubt that was even close to the intention of the original author. Stop or Godless, you have any input?
I think many of the scientific claims in the Quran or science in the Quran is copied from the Bible. So, like the mountains are balls in earth to make it equal, and how the earth and heaven were created in 6 days. It's all copied information from the Bible. So if you refute the Bible, you refute the Quran too. And if you refute also the Quran, you refute the Bible, because they have the same information mostly in regard to science.
Yeah, I would say.
Okay, what I see at the moment, what is happening is that more and more people are realizing that this is nonsense. They are realizing, it's just as Atheismo said, that it's a misinterpretation or a reinterpretation and retranslation, just a misrepresentation of what is actually in the text. This is why people are now starting to dismiss this, abandon ship, and going back to this linguistic claim. This is what I hear now, left, right, and center. It's inimitable. You cannot pronounce. You cannot produce another surah, and blah blah blah. All this subjective nonsense, because there is no objective way to test it. With the scientific claims, you just said, all right, prove it scientifically, and then it was dead. And now they're going away from this.
Yeah. My question for people who make the inimitable Quran claim is simply this. All right, either the test is objective or subjective. Mm-hmm. If it's subjective, then it's not a test. There's no way to pass it because it's just a matter of opinion.
Agreed.
However, if it's objective, if it's certain qualities, then all we have to do is program those qualities into a computer and get it to spit out every possible surah in ancient Arabic with those objective qualities. And it will either spit out every surah in the Quran and no others, in which case the Quran is inimitable because everything with those properties is already in there, which is not a particular accomplishment, or it will spit out and meet the Quran challenge.
Yeah, but now you're making one mistake. You're being rational.
Well, you know, the thing is, that's, for example, with the scientific arguments, you can't blame that on Muhammad. Muhammad is often very vague and non-committal, and personally, I get the feeling that he was worried about what the Greeks, Persians, or Indians might discover next, so he really was very careful to couch it. I mean, unlike some other people who make these wild claims, I think I sense the anxiety that if he made too concrete a committal to something factual, that someone might discover something different. So he tends to couch his language in very vague words and terminology and sense. So you can't really blame a lot of the scientific nonsense on him. What you can blame on him is this awful argument about inimitability of the Quran, because it's actually in the Quran. So they can't escape that. It's a terrible argument on its face to say that because something has a certain unique style, allegedly, that it's therefore the result of a supernatural process.
Yeah.
I don't understand why that gains traction with anyone to begin with, but they can't truly divorce themselves from it unless they drastically reinterpret the several mentions where they say, okay, well, if you think I'm making it up, compose a surah or an ayat like it.
Though to be fair, that does actually explain some of the scientific errors, because after all, if it didn't say that the Earth was flat, it wouldn't rhyme. Or maybe that's a positive rhetorical device. Maybe Allah spread the Earth out flat. That's a positive rhetorical device. It's not saying the Earth is flat. It's just it has to be inimitable.
Yeah, who knows? Anyway, Puppy, your time's up. This was actually a pretty good topic. Please come on anytime again in the future. Take care. I'm removing him. And we're going to bring in Insane Craig, who wants to talk about feeling like a prisoner in his own country. So anyway, while his connection's establishing, he's busy. Well, make sure you guys aren't busy when we call you in. I'll leave him in and we'll dial him up. Actually, no, we'll skip ahead. Skip ahead. He can come back. Okay, this is, he didn't tell me how to pronounce it. This is Jesse Zudi. He wants to clarify a few points on slavery in Islam. He didn't tell me whether it was, which side of the issue he's coming from. Hopefully he'll be Muslim. Hey, Jesse, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
So what do you have for us?
I hear you talking about how scientific facts are, are not 100% correct and all that. You see, the way I look at it, I mean, I was raised in a Muslim society. Mm-hmm. The way I look at it, there are hundreds of thousands of books on Islam, okay? And very few have come out after these claims have come out. Okay, for example, there's a verse in the Quran that says that the Romans they're going to be beaten and then they're going to win a battle and then they're going to be beaten again or something like that. You see, historically, way after the Quran descended, that happened. But okay, that's a cool thing, but I'm not going to tell you, hey, become a Muslim, because the Quran said that this happened and it did actually happen. Yeah. You see, the fact that P.Z. Myers and Hamza had to go through all this debate, it means that it's not so conclusive that the Quran is so wrong. You know what I mean? Now,
no, we don't know what you mean, because you are saying it's not so conclusive and it's not 100% clear. It's not 100% correct. No, that is completely wrong. What we are saying, it is not correct in any which way. So there is a difference between dancing around and pussyfooting around and making a very clear statement. Now, if you are coming on here and saying anything about science, you need to be scientifically accurate and precise. You can't do this pussyfooting around, okay? So you need to really open your mouth and put it down where it is.
We're not necessarily aiming that at you. You understand, Jesse? Just so you don't feel like you're...
Yeah, no, I understand. I agree with you even. But the thing is, P.Z. Myers said that Hamza wrote this whole... I didn't read Hamza's article about it or analysis. But P.Z. Myers said that, this whole article is about just these two words and about the meanings of them, right? Didn't he say something like that? Just about the whole debate is about these words. And what Hamza does is he goes, to the linguistic side of it, and then he kind of flexes it.
Yeah. Well,
what I mean is, there isn't something in the Quran that says, okay, that's as conclusive as the Bible saying that Earth is 4,000 years old, because that's something. I mean, no one can debate that, can you?
Yeah. Well, yeah, like, for example, someone asked me, a Muslim asked me point blank, so you think that the Quran says that the Earth is flat? And I said, well, no. It does not say explicitly the Earth is flat, and in the future, people like Galileo and Copernicus are completely full of shit. It doesn't say that so explicitly. What it does is it gives many different descriptions that are conducive to an understanding of the Earth being flat. So I mean, I'm very careful in how I couch these kinds of claims, but if it's supposedly a god revealing information to lesser beings, you'd think that he would very, very casually talk over their heads to a certain extent. Or I don't know if anyone's ever seen a movie called Army of Darkness. In some places it's regionalized as Evil Dead 3, where there's a guy from the future and he goes back to like a medieval, like an Arthurian court. And then he has all this knowledge that they don't have, and he just, talks and teaches them how to, make gunpowder and do all these other things. And it just seems to me that a superior being would have no issue with being more concise, and certainly with, telling people how to invent things that they'd never even thought of, that maybe even we today haven't even thought of. Anyway, Godless or Stop. You have any more? No?
Yes, I just want to point out the like a verse in the Quran, and it's Surah 5, verse 15. It says, "There has come to you from Allah a light and a clear book." And so God making a point here that the Quran is clear, and obviously it's not, because you see this hundred of different interpretation of the book. So
No, you see,
yes.
you see, if there were only one interpretation 1400 years ago, what are we going to use it for right now? I mean, ever since then we have so many new things. How is Islam going to judge? How is Islam going to judge, for example, narcotics, drugs, cigarettes, all that stuff? How are you going to judge it? It wasn't there 1500 years ago.
No, I'm talking
Exactly.
about the Quran itself. It's not clear book, so it's a failure of the author.
Well, doesn't it say at
God.
one point in the Surah of Al-Baqarah that only Allah can understand certain aspects of it?
Right. No, not that. It's like in the Quran there are few words. They're not even words. They're just a combination of letters. Like for example, DFG. I'm the only one who knows what that means. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that doesn't matter. I mean, you should whenever you wanna look at Islam and judge it, that's not the way you look at it. You don't say, oh, okay, you have these scientific. That's not gonna matter. I mean, what is it gonna matter? You sit here debate for hours just about this embryology thing, when it doesn't make a difference on the society if all of them become Muslims. But let me talk about, if I may, about the issue of slavery. You had a guy on from Jordan.
Yeah.
The title of the video was, a test that went, wild or something like that. I forgot. You see, you came to the conclusion. The rationalizer came to the conclusion through talking to the Jordanian guy, the Muslim guy who wasn't very, knowledgeable. He came to the conclusion that, female slaves have to have sex with a slave master and have children in order for them to gain their freedom. You see, that's very wrong. You see, in Islam, of course, you all know that, a man could have up to 4 wives. Under no circumstances, a man can have sex with a woman that is not married to him, under no marital contract. You see, the thing is, in Islam, in order for you to marry someone, you have to, there's the initial money that you give her, and then there's the after the divorce, just to guarantee your right. For the slaves, you just don't pay the first amount, because you as her owner, you already paid that, but you have to get married to the slave. You see, can I have like 10 points that I would like?
Well, that wouldn't be fair to the
Late.
but really quick, isn't there a verse that says that you can there's a verse, I don't remember the exact wording, but all that your right hand possess, those women are free to you. You know the one, Stop?
Yes, it's Surah 4, verse 3. And if you fear that you will not deal justly with orphan girls, then marry those that please you, of other women, 2 or 3 or 4. But if you fear that you will not be just, then marry only one, or those your right hand possesses. So those are the slave girls. You could have sex with them. According to the Quran, it's...
no, that's a wrong interpretation.
Well,
no, it's not. You could look up,
It's simply wrong interpretation. I mean, in order for you to interpret something in the Quran, you have to have...
It's very clear. The verse is very clear. You could read
the Arabic
the
language
interpretation
and
of Jalaluddin al-Suyuti or Ibn Kathir or al-Baghawi or any of the tafsir books.
There's
they all agree on that you could have sex with
to be honest with you, I haven't looked at that verse, so I don't know, honestly. I mean, you could be right, but to be honest with you, I mean, I haven't done my studying on it, and for a verse in the Quran, it just took you 5 seconds to talk about it. It's usually not that way with the Quran. It usually takes pages in some verses just to understand what it means and where it came from.
Yeah, well, I mean, I remember that verse, and that was my initial interpretation, and I didn't think anything of it. I think that the issue on I would wonder what, like with a lot of these issues, what is the modern day breakdown, you know, amongst clerics and amongst the average laypersons? And it's hard for us to, you know, quickly do a poll here, but you know, as with so many other religious issues, I'll talk to someone who believes one way and the other way, and they both believe that that's the true interpretation and the true Islam. Certainly that's what I took away from it right away, is that you can have sex with your slaves. And you know, I didn't think anything of it, because let's face it, any society that tolerates slavery is going to have a tacit allowance of you know, having, I mean, let's face it, you know, like the founding fathers of the US, they did good things, but they were slave owners. And you know, there were a lot of kids walking around with names like Washington and Jackson and Jefferson. You know, let's face it. You know, any time you have this dichotomy, you know, the men will exert their superior position over women of lesser castes or slave, you know, caste and so forth. So, like, whether it tolerates it or not, I would have to say it was probably pretty normative at every level of Muslim or any other society that allowed slavery.
Yes, the thing is. Okay, in Islam, there's no such thing as, you know, enslave someone or get as many slaves as you can. In fact, Islam's objective was very clear, to eliminate slavery. You see, back then, slavery was the heart of economy. You couldn't just say, okay, everyone just, you know, leave slavery. They had to do it gradually. That's why I have 10 points.
Alcohol was a part of economy too. Why did Muhammad prohibited alcohol? Like the first thing he did, he prohibited alcohol.
He didn't do it. It was not the first thing he did.
Yeah, but he did it early on in his dawah.
Yeah, because it was something.
And alcohol was a big part of the economy, especially for Quraysh and the Arabs. You know, they were drinkers. They drink a lot of alcohol.
You see the thing. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and he prohibited also maisir, which means gambling. He prohibited that. So he wasn't concerned with the economy at all. So slavery is not. Slavery is okay in Islam. The Prophet Muhammad has had more than 40 slaves. Some books say less, some books say more, and there were slave girls and males and females. So yeah,
right.
it's not condemned in Islam.
Okay, let's talk. Okay, two things. First, you talked about the alcohol and the gambling. Okay, alcohol and gambling. You see. Like I said, Islam's objective was clear, to eliminate slavery. It had a different approach than the one for alcohol and gambling. Why, I don't know, but it had a different approach. You see, alcohol and gambling had different effects on society, had different effects on society than slavery, or maybe they were worse.
Also, taking interest on loans, it was prohibited.
Yeah, it became prohibited, yeah.
But listen, guys, let's not go too much off track here. Jesse, let me just ask you two questions.
Yes.
Is there, in your opinion, something called the Islam?
The Islam. What do you mean? Like one thing everyone has to go to?
What he's saying is there one true, and then there are just degrees of deviation?
I believe that there's the Quran, and there's the Bukhari and Muslim, the collectors of hadith, and there in every culture, or in everything, you're gonna have conservatives and you're gonna have liberals.
Yeah.
You see, right now in Egypt.
No. This was just I was interested to know if you actually believe that there is such an animal as the Islam, because I don't see it. But if that is what you believe, that's cool. My second question is there any wording? And I think this is where Godless Saudi is going. Is there any wording in the Quran that says abolish slavery? Or does it give you instructions on how to treat slaves? And then this is what people interpret as, yes, you have the possibility of freeing slave, and you are making this into the Quran says free the slaves. Is there any clear statement in the Quran, such as the case with alcohol, please free your slaves?
Of course, there are many sinful acts that one commits that can be
No,
replenished.
sorry. No, I don't want to talk over you, but I
come
asked
back.
for clear definitions.
Yeah, you mean like
not,
as in
not
a command.
interpretations.
I know what you mean, like as in a command. That's what I was explaining to him. It was the heart of the economy. If everyone left it, which they couldn't, the whole thing would have collapsed. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, is there something from either the Quran or the two Sahih collections or some other, respected source that clearly, clearly to anyone, I think, is what we're driving for, lays out a plan to phase slavery out? Because
Yes.
I'm familiar with all three texts, and nothing really jumps out at me. I know that there are, for example, in Bukhari and the other hadiths, it says that it is a good thing to release an individual slave. It's considered an act of charity, and that apparently the custom was, during certain holidays or special occasions as celebration, they'd let a slave or two go, and that's certainly nice. But I didn't really read anything into it that there was this plan to slowly phase slavery out completely.
Okay, can I talk about that?
Yes, please.
Can I have
Please.
like 2 minutes, please?
Yes, absolutely.
First of all, the issue of slavery is considered under the legislation branch of the of Islam, and in legislation there's always many different opinions, and it's something gradual. For example, it's not like believing in God. You can't say maybe I can believe in two gods, or in Islam, no, you can't. You have to only believe in one God. That's unquestionable. But like issues like slavery, you can have many different opinions and many different levels or layers depending on each society. Okay. Like I said, the economy, I made that point. My next point is people, there was the phenomenon of people wanting to get as many slaves as possible. They used to invade, kidnap, mate with. The most popular way to gain as many slaves as possible is just have sex with a whole bunch of slaves and have children slaves. Many of the Prophet's companions, they were former slaves. They were former kidnapped slaves. They were just people walking in the desert. They got kidnapped, became slaves. And the next point is, yes. 1 second. I have them in a Word document. Yeah. Yeah. Now you see, one of the things that slaves could have done. Actually, slaves. How could one become slave in Islam? Is when they invaded or when they went into a war, and the people that the war is on, if the people who lost to Islam had enslaved Muslims when they invaded the Muslims, then you can take slaves from them. But if they invaded you and they did not they did not enslave any of you, you're not allowed to enslave any of them.
Okay.
A slave could pay, or a captive could pay jizya or teach 10 people. Now, like I said about the sins thing, so that helps to eliminate slavery. And there's one point that was the most important, which is there's no newborn slaves. If you're born into, there's no newborn slave. You see that was the objective, and that was the way of Islam, treating the situation. However, that did not work, and afterwards Muslims, they started buying slaves in bulk, like in thousands, and making armies, which is that period when the slaves revolted and became in the rule.
Yeah.
Area of Panellists, we call it in Arabic.
So the answer is no, or what? What is the answer?
That's the answer. These are the steps that Islam took to eliminate slavery.
Well, okay. Since you want to, I'm gonna your time. I think we gave you like 20 minutes, and I promised everyone I'd give people 10. So I hope you don't think it's unfair if I award myself the last word. Usually I give the guest last word, but I will say that if I'm wrong about this, then please someone correct me. But you had from the time of Muhammad and his command when he was alive, you had the Rashidun, you had the Umayyad, the Abbasid, then later on you had other, after the Mongols came, you had the Mughals, and then all the way up through all these different dynasties and regional rulerships, all the way up to the collapse of the Ottoman Empire. And if I'm not mistaken, up until the treaties with the the Allied powers that really signed the death warrant of the Ottoman Empire, there was still slavery. Am I wrong about that?
Yeah,
No, you're right.
You're right.
150 years ago, there was slaves in Saudi Arabia.
Right. So, I mean, it seems like they were phasing it out really gradually, is all I'm going to say. Okay. Thank you so much for coming on the show. You're welcome back anytime. Take care. Salam. I hope he doesn't feel like I just booted him out after getting it. Well, but we have to move on. Okay, so let's try Insane Craig again. Let's see if he's still busy. Yeah. Anyway, like, if someone brings up a claim like that, I hate to be this guy and browbeat him. It's like, where in the Quran does it say it? Where in Bukhari does it say it? But anytime, if anyone else comes on, I would like to know your source if you remember it to the best of your ability, because, that's just the bylaws of how this debate tends to be conducted. Eric, thanks for joining us. What do you have for us today?
Hey, so I think it's interesting. So Godless Saudi, enjoyed having you. Enjoyed listening to you so far.
Thank you.
I thought it would be interesting to ask about secularism, kind of in the context of these new all these revolutions. I know that in Egypt, for example, the secular like the April 6th movement and all the students sort of led the revolution, and now it's kind of been hijacked by the Muslim Brotherhood and the Salafis, who have like something like 65% of the total vote. And I keep hearing rumblings that like in places like Iran and Saudi Arabia and so on and so forth, a lot of like the youth are much more secular and liberal than their governments. And I'm wondering like sort of what can be done to like promote like the cause of like secularism and government in the Middle East. Like what should like the West's role be in that? Like what do you think would be like effective?
Knowledge. Just knowledge, just the internet,
I think
the people are out there, they are looking. I mean, I see how the youngsters are walking around, how they are flashing the stilettos, and how the boys are looking at the stilettos, and then when they pass each other, then off you go with the texting and this flurry of activity. Boys will be boys and girls will be girls. That is what is happening in the real world. There is no difference. So what is happening is that the people are more interested in what is going on outside of their society, and I see the lightening up of society at the moment. It's going to be a slow process. Maybe it's going to take 2 or 3 generations, but I see huge differences in the last 10 years.
Godless. I'd like to hear what Godless has to say about this. He could probably speak to it better.
I think it has to come from the inside, and especially Islamic countries, we don't have any voice. It's just young people gathering together. We don't have famous people or well-known secularists that could speak in the media or on TV. So I think we need idols, or someone like Dawkins or Christopher Hitchens. Yeah, we don't have anyone who like that. They're just younger people, and they could not affect anything. Especially, they are minorities. It's not. I don't think it's on the rise. It just exists.
I mean, the sort of Muslim reformers you hear about, like Miriam Namazi and so on, it seems like they only really get a voice when they leave Muslim countries and, have to, in some cases, even have to join like conservative think tanks like Ayaan Hirsi Ali had to do. I mean, is there anything that can be done so like
even Ayaan Hirsi Ali and Maryam, they are just only known in the West. No one heard of them in Saudi Arabia or the Gulf countries.
Is there essentially like a media blackout of speakers like that?
Yes, there's censorship, and even if you go on the internet, so many websites are censored, and you can't get any information. You can't watch anything you like. You just all blocked.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know. I debated with, or quote unquote debated with some. Let me think. There was like a guy from Saudi Arabia and a guy from Pakistan, and when I sort of sort of brought out the usual, like, what's, about, like, Salman Rushdie's fatwa and, like, Naguib Mahfouz getting stabbed for his, he getting stabbed for his beliefs and so on and so forth, and, like, Theo Van Gogh getting shot. The almost universal response from these people was, I have no idea who that is. I also have no idea who that is. And I don't know who that guy is, but if they insulted Islam, they brought it on themselves. So
yes, that's what even liberals say in my country. So you could talk about the government and economics and everything, but when it comes to Islam and something happened to you, then you deserve it.
Yeah, I don't much care for the economic argument being made. A lot of people say, like, the reason that these societies have these views is because, sort of to paraphrase Barack Obama, that because they're poor, they cling to their guns and their Bibles. But the fact that, for example, the 9/11 hijackers and the Saudi kings and so on and so forth are and like Ahmadinejad's government are all, like, fairly well-educated, college-educated people, and especially in the case of the 9/11 hijackers, it seems mainly where they get their vitriol is from mosques, and I believe there was, like, a mosque in Germany where a lot of them attended. It just seems like it's not really that, like, the education level correlates with people's belief in secularism or human rights or any of those things that we like in the West. It's just it seems almost like Islam kind of hijacks that and says, like, even somehow it even has a grip on, like, educated people to say, you can be as educated as you want, but apostate should still go to hell. Like, it's really kind of remarkable to me.
Yeah, but you see, that's why people like you are now tantalizing these people, and they're saying, well, where does he get his information from? And this is why the youngsters, come on, they know the internet and they know how to get proxies. So this is how they're now getting the information. They're not stupid.
No, it's true. And I mean, I can only hope that, it gets better.
And this is why I'm actually surprised that there are so few people watching this show here. I sent some people here from forum, and then I said to them, listen, if you want to talk and if you want to know something, why don't you come here and talk to us? Instead of just spreading dogma in your forum, where everybody is of the same opinion anyway, why don't you do something, a little bit, be critical? But it looks as though that is not encouraged. So I love that people like you are going out there and are saying, okay, well, listen, hey, what do you know about this? Are you aware about this? And then you see, no, they are not. So this is what I'm saying. It's a matter of time before they get the way around it and they get the knowledge and they get this. Where a couple of years ago, there was no internet full stop. So it's getting better all the time.
No, that certainly makes sense. I mean, I guess the other concern I have about it is I think like U.S. foreign policy does have something to do with it, in the sense that, when you prop up people like Mubarak and Saleh and whoever else, like, and while simultaneously like being complicit in suppressing the youth and suppressing democratic movements, I think I do think the West's hands are a little bit bloodied in this affair, and I think it might be worth. I mean, I honestly don't know how to do it. I'm not a foreign policy expert of any kind, but it might be worth sort of reevaluating our policy, our anti-terrorism policy, to say, like, wait a minute, like, surely there's a better way to, because in the long term, it's once these secular and democratic movements, like, really take over their countries, the sky is the limit, right? But it seems like we like in the West, we kind of search for short-term solutions to these things. We say, look, okay, like, we'll prop up this secular government because he's secular and he's against, like, the Muslim Brotherhood, but he was also committing, like, terrible human rights abuses in his own country. And I think I realize that's kind of a tangent, but I thought it was at least mentioning as sort of a cause of the.
No, you are right. I see it the same way. The problem is that if you look back at the first Afghanistan war, the US left, did not do anything, left a void, and then people later said, why did you leave a void? The second time around they came in, they did the exact opposite, and now they're being accused of doing the opposite, so you can't win.
Actually, stop. I think that the criticism is fair on both counts, personally. I think that if they...
Yeah.
Go ahead, yeah. I'm sorry, did I interrupt you?
No, I was agreeing with you. No, talk to me.
Yeah, I think that, in the first place, we should have stuck around after the Soviets got pushed out and, just taken our direction from the locals, telling them what they require of us and then giving it to them because we have superior resources, not doing their thinking for them, which is the number one mistake we make, both in the sort of remote control attempts at manipulation of existing regimes and also the building of other governments from scratch. It's always a horrible idea, like in the second Afghan war involving U.S. There was I remember watching this news clip of this Afghan commander with the Northern Alliance and that group. And he was really grateful that they were receiving American air support and NATO air support, and but he kept sort of grinding his teeth, saying, we know which targets are the priority. Why are you hitting this when you could be hitting that? That would help us so much more. And he said, if I had, if I had control of their air resources, I could use it so much better because I'm on the ground. I understand the situation better. And I think that also applies, of course, to political and social affairs to a great extent. You can provide support, but you should never put yourself in the position where you're micromanaging, and in the second place, I think that, topping the Taliban was worthwhile, but, moving in and elbowing the locals aside and saying, okay, we'll make your decisions for you was a horrible decision. It was really snatched defeat from the jaws of victory, in my opinion.
Sure, I think that's a concern, balancing the local concerns with sort of the U.S.'s concerns. If I can draw like a parallel to non-Islamic history, I remember in Japan when MacArthur's forces occupied Japan after the 1945 atomic bombings. One of the things they did was they literally, I think him and his staff literally spent 3 weeks and drafted a constitution for Japan. But at the time, the Japanese people treated their emperor as a god. Like he was literally a descendant of the Shinto, the head Shinto deity. Mm-hmm. And in this constitution, they literally said, no, you can't do that anymore. Your emperor is not a god. You're not ruled by gods. You're humans. And there's like a separation of temple and state and so on and so forth. And it feels like the way, it's hard to argue that didn't work because right now Japan is a secular liberal society that respects human rights and is generally a decent place to live in, some issues aside. But it seems like that's not really what's done anymore in places like Iraq and Afghanistan. Like the constitutions that seem to get promulgated in these places are at least partly based on Sharia law. Talk about oppression of the wrong sect of Islam and of homosexuals and so on and so forth. And I wonder if we've kind of lost our nation building mojo ever since Japan. But maybe you guys can speak to sort of the differences.
Yeah, I think that a lot of it had to do with the sheer incompetence of the leadership that we had at the time as much as anything else. I mean, it needs to be said, No,
it's true.
It's hard people complain I make the show too political, and usually I'm not very partisan locally, but you have to call a spade when it comes to just the overwhelming ineptitude that we saw from the people put in charge of that situation. Yeah, I mean it's a tough choice. If you could impose something that takes into account all of the lessons that we've learned from our own constitutional rulings and history. But then, of course, there's the ethical question of how much are you overriding the will of the locals. It's tough, but the thing is, I think that one of the problems is that in Afghanistan and Iraq, we're trying to market these actions as not being the complete capitulation of the entire society as we had Germany and Japan, but it was just the elimination of one faction. And I think that there was a lot of indecisiveness in the days to follow, obviously, and you basically have to make up your mind when you're going to make such serious decisions that are a matter of life and death for so many hundreds of thousands of people. Like I said, if it had been me and I was put in charge of this sort of a situation, I would have used a very hands-off approach and hoped that if you just eliminate the absolute worst, hopefully things will at least be iteratively better, and not expect miracles. In order to really build a nation from the ground up, you'd need, sort of a full mobilization of resources like we saw in the Second World War or something like that. And, obviously we weren't ready, willing and able to commit that. And I think we would have been fools to do so, to commit so much to, chase after a handful of problematic individuals. I mean, the whole business, the whole policy that became known as the War on Terror, it's really trying to kill a spider with a sledgehammer.
Makes sense.
I'm going to let you go, Eric. Thanks for calling. You're always welcome back.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Take care. And we're going to bring in Carter, who's going to talk about are we sad when people die? Are we saddened by the loss of life or loss of personhood? Carter, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming.
So loud. Thank you for having me.
Go for it.
Well, initially I wanted to talk about what we were sad and why we were saddened if someone passes away, whether it's we are saddened from the loss of life or the loss of that personhood. But I think now my thoughts have shifted onto what might be considered to be the soul for a lot of people, and what is compounded that. Is a person just this body, or is a person who we are socially, and when we interact and all the input that happens in there, the ego and yada, yada, yada. Because, I don't know, in light of Christopher Hitchens' death, I was like, oh man, this is really sad. This is horrible, horrible news. But then I started thinking about it, and well, he's up on the internet, and a lot of the things that he said has been put out there, and now it's out there. And so in a sense, his personhood is still in existence, just he's not creating new thoughts because he's no longer live. So I wanted to throw it out there, see what were some other thoughts. I saw something in the chat room that said after 30 minutes I was talking with Hitchens in my office, and I now doubt my own existence or something like that.
Stop regardless?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Stop regardless, you have anything? I went a little bit long with the last guest, so I'll give you guys a chance to...
No, I summarized it in the beginning. So I don't believe in a soul. I don't think it exists. I think I'm a product of my genes, and I don't think that there is anything more to it. No, I miss Christopher Hitchens, of course, for what he stands for, but not so much for the person. And I think the ideas that he has, sown, I think that they will continue.
Well, in response to that, I mean, are his ideas not him?
No.
No. Why?
Because it's something different. Because the ideas, it's just that. The ideas continue and carry on, and the person does not.
So what makes you you?
I'm a collection of genes. I'm just molecules that are bonded together, and the product of my mixture of genes and molecules culminates in thoughts and ideas which I formulate and I put out. Now, if I write a book, that book stays, and it stays the idea which I had or used to have, and even when I am gone physically. So I think there's two different things. There's the metaphysical and the physical. So my physical existence will cease to exist. My ideas will, well, hopefully, continue.
Okay, so what is this metaphysical thing then? Like, where is this something that lives socially, inside of a community?
Absolutely. I think it's part and parcel of it. I mean, I am a product also of morality of society of today. I am, well, let's say, programmed in a way that I am capable of surviving in today's society in the area that I am in. Whereas I would not be able to survive in, I don't know, in Somalia, for example. I just couldn't. So there's always different aspects. I think it's society, I think it's environment, I think it's upbringing, I think it's genes. This is what makes me me. But I don't think that there's any little box or container or 21 grams or something that will vanish once I'm dead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think just if I scalp a statue and then die, it doesn't mean that I live through the statue. Just it's a sign that I existed at one time.
Well, take music for example, like Bach, right? So you have this piece of sheet music, and if someone, a skilled enough musician, plays the sheet music in the same way and has the same notes and sort of recreates the same sound, you don't think that that's a part of Bach being played? His personhood coming back to life? No?
Part of his ideas and writing and skills, but it's not part of him as a physical person.
So you guys are denying that your psyche or your social personhood is any part of your real person?
Well, not in a concrete way, I mean, I think it. I gotta be honest with you. I kind of despise this field of semantics. Nothing against you, of course, but I'm just not that sentimental about things like this. Of course, I've had people I've known die, and friends and family, and to be honest, it doesn't really sadden me the way it does other friends and family who are also attending the funerals. And that might be as much to do with me being a sociopath as anything else. But it's, to me, it's no more than that they're just gone. It's really no different than if they just moved away and we're just not going to see them anymore. It doesn't. I guess there is. If someone dies in some sort of a grisly circumstance, I guess there is that sort of what do you want to say? Sympathetic cringing if you thought they died while in pain or over a period of sickness and suffering. But honestly, personally, it doesn't affect me that much watching other people pass away. It's just they're not going to be around anymore. They're whatever they've contributed up to this point, they've contributed and nothing more. Barring you find something that they left behind, search their belongings and find that they wrote about you in their diary, some circumstance like that. But for the most part, you have a legacy in people's memories and the impact you have on the world. But I don't really get too poetic with it, I don't think. Anything else from the panel? Did you said you had another topic, and then you. What was
no. It was basically it started off as I just wanted to talk about death and the loss of personhood versus the loss of life, and then my thoughts shifted a step to soul and perhaps being what might that be if there is such a thing.
Well, yeah, I don't think there's a soul in a literal sense.
No, but I guess this social thing that carries on is still, I guess, a part of that person or their collection of thoughts and ideas so that was stored within that particular brain.
Yeah, I mean, I might use the term soul in a very colloquial sense from time to time, but I think that like for example, people say, well, God is love, or talk about the soul who don't believe it literally. When you're involved in this debate circuit, I guess you're very cautious about trying to muddy these waters at all, and you don't there's already a meaning for there are already meanings ascribed to the word soul, and I don't think it requires additional ones. I'm not looking to breathe new life into that word now that it's mostly useless to me, now that I don't believe that a spiritual sentient residue it is around both before and after your body expires. I mean, the fact of the matter is, someone asked me, well, where do you go when you die? And I said, well, you go the same place your car goes when it runs out of gas. Nowhere. It stops. So there you have it. Anything more from the panel? Did you have another thing you'd like to discuss?
No, I guess, well, so the I, or I guess our ego, that exists, yes, here in our brain as a part of collection of thoughts, but that exists socially? Okay. Well,
I mean, there's people have memories of you. Like I said, I don't wax very poetic about it. Is all. I suppose that you could, if you want to say that someone's spirit lives on. I'm not gonna come down on you like a ton of bricks for that. Okay, so if there's nothing else, I'm gonna let you go. Thanks for coming on the show. And of course, what likely prompted him, I probably should have asked him before I let him go, was the passing of Christopher Hitchens. What are some good memories we have of Hitch?
Are you asking for a book?
Yeah, anybody. We'll just have a show in memory of Christopher Hitchens from here on out. If anyone else wants to join the show, sorry, if anyone else wants to join the show, we've actually got all the callers we had in today. So if you want to come on the show, talk about anything, Christopher Hitchens, or any of the topics we discussed before, a new topic, just send a contact request or a private message to the Gin and Tonic Show on Skype, and we'll bring you on. So, Stop, you were going to say something?
No, I just wanted to say we're going to have a whole show just quotes from Christopher Hitchens, because you can fill an entire book on this. Because you see all these videos in memoriam, and they're all quotes, and I just love them. I mean, really, this was really a brilliant guy. Are you saying that there are no more callers?
Well, I burned through them all. Hopefully, we'll get more.
Right.
Now, Godless, are people like Hitchens? Would people in Saudi Arabia even be remotely aware of who Hitchens was or what he did?
No, it's not a very well-known figure. It's just only minority knows about Hitchens. He's not a famous person or whatsoever. So is Richard Dawkins and all of the major atheist speakers. They just they never mentioned them in TV or magazines or a newspaper or anything.
Okay. We have a new caller, Hexelwaxel, who has some comments about Hamza and Wahhabi miracles. Hexel, you with us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you for coming on the show. Go for it.
Hi. I watched the last show, and there was again James Shady, and you were discussing the miracle of embryology and all this stuff. And now he has already a new miracle about, I think, Higgs boson or something like that. And I just wanted to ask, why are always we atheists kind of debunking these miracles? Why are we always in a defensive position? Why don't we just say and go the other way around and tell and point out what is actually wrong in the Quran? So what is scientifically absolutely wrong, and then Muslims have to defend the Quran. Mm-hmm. Usually it's always the other way around, as far as I observed it.
Actually, we have since like I said, since we went through a full roster of callers, I'm going to go ahead and bring on the caller we had on earlier, Jesse, who was basically the primary counterpoint. He's our jam for the day, it seems like. So I'm just going to leave Haxel in and bring Jesse in, so he can offer counterpoint, and I think I'll just leave him on for the remainder. We have like 45 minutes left. I'll just leave Jesse in here. So anyway, Stop, regardless, you have any comment before we?
Yeah, I don't think it's. I mean, I always when I talk to Muslims point out the wrong scientific facts in the Quran or the claims, and yeah, it's and actually not all Muslims believe in the scientific miracles in the Quran. It just the mostly ignorant people like Hamza or Aira. Yes, it's not like a big thing.
Yeah, well, it's amazing the discrepancy you find in how, I mean, I guess I should be used to this from talking to Christians, in my neck of the woods, that there's the vast range, but I think the spectrum's even wider with Muslims, from the very miraculous to the very mundane, in that you talk to some people who are very literal and others who are not so much. And I've talked to I'll talk to one Muslim who says, well, for example, Muhammad, once pointed at the moon and split it in half, and I, of course, had issues with that I brought up to his attention. And then later on, I'll say, well, what about the time, talking to another Muslim, say, well, what about the time that, Muhammad split the moon? And you said, well, you know nothing about Islam. He never did that. Who's been filling your head with this nonsense? It really can be quite aggravating. But yeah, there's some who believe that a lot of these miraculous signs occurred, or that a lot of the very modern, scientific miraculous claims are true. And then others say, oh, that's all hogwash. Don't listen to any of it.
Can I say some? Can I just say one sentence?
Please.
You see, everything. Anyone can question and investigate anything in Islam, even you. You just gotta do it. I mean, whatever. It doesn't matter whatever anyone tells you. If you wanna study the thing you're talking about, you can do it yourself. You know what I mean? You don't have to take other people's words for it. Mm-hmm. It's right there in books. You can study it and investigate it.
Well, that's what we've been doing, much to the chagrin of a lot of the Muslims I've talked to. Yeah, well, the thing is, like what Haxel was talking about of problems that we see in the Quran. It's always a very uphill battle when you're trying to convince someone else that the problem in a book that they are adamantly convinced is perfect.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
One reason why people, Arabs mostly, are unable to find problems in the Quran is because the level of Arabic skills, or the level of Arabic in general right now amongst Arabs is far below that level that was 1,500 years ago. For example, my Arabic teacher once said it takes an Arabic professor hours to write one line of poetry that was just freestyled in the streets of Arabia, 1,500 years ago. And the Quran is no comparison when it comes to poetry. That's how lame we got in Arabic.
Well, I mean, are you sure it's not different rather than truly inferior? I mean, all languages change over time. For example, we might look at the comparison between modern Arabic and Quranic Arabic is often the comparison has been made to modern English and Shakespearean English, for example. But was Shakespearean English truly better, or because it's relegated to a specific art form, do we just venerate it disproportionately? Do you think?
No, I think the Arabic language is still the same. I mean, if anyone with a high school education in Arabic can grab a book from 1,500 years, from a book that was written by a regular person and fully understand it. But yeah, that's it. But I mean, the modern Arabic you're talking about is just, are you talking about the dialogue, the accents and all that? Because in each country there's a different accent with different words, but that's only used for dialogue. That's not considered the Arabic language, which is in the books that are very old.
I think
Haxel, did you have more?
The old Arabic is more beautiful language because you could illustrate, use more words. Yeah, it's a better than now, but I don't think it makes modern language inferior. It just has more words.
What's modern Arabic you're talking about?
I mean, not the accent or the new dialect. I'm talking about the Arabic we use in newspaper and books.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's the same grammar, the same words, and the same everything. It's just
it's a little bit different in the vocabulary department. We don't use the same vocabulary as pre-Islamic Arabia or at the time of the Prophet. They use more words, more difficult words, and yes.
Jesse, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to. You have the right to remain private in all things. But would you mind telling us where you're from and what your experience with what languages you spoke at home or things like this?
Okay, I'm from Jerusalem, and I have a high school education. I was born and lived there I lived there all my life, and I have a high school education. Right now, I'm 20 years old, and I go to college in the United States.
But you said you were raised in Jerusalem.
Yes, I speak Arabic, English, and Hebrew.
Okay. So, I mean, it seems, well, I don't know, you and Godless could probably go rounds about this, about how different it is. From my, very limited Arabic, it seems like there's a lot of archaic terms and uses of terms in the Quran compared to today. But again, that's from a very remedial perspective. I could be.
Yeah, that's some scholars consider that kind of a miracle, that people 1,500 years ago would understand the Quran a certain way, and we understand it a different way. Just, I mean, for right now, it could be someone could look at the Quran, from the 21st century and have only one conclusion to what this verse means. And the same thing would be for someone who was 1,500 years ago, but you would have very different, conclusions.
I don't think it's a miracle, just language evolves. Some languages die, some languages evolves. I don't think it's a miracle. I mean, some word we use it for something, and then 50 years later we use it for something else. So
yes,
that's why we have different interpretations.
Something I noticed whenever listening to someone speaking Arabic, I mean, I'm talking about the original Arabic, you notice that the higher level of Arabic they use harder words. It's just like any other language. Some people speak words that you don't understand in English, right, Atheismo?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Some people are just that good.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Haxel, before I let you go, did you have more?
Well, it was just I was talking about. I mean, now we are talking again about the language of the Quran, if it's perfect or not, and so on. But I just wanted to ask Jesse things like, what do you think, how came, for example, the universe into existence? I mean, do you believe that it took about 7 days and then it was all good, or what do you think about that?
I believe in the Big Bang Theory, and there's a sentence in the Quran that says something similar to that. It doesn't have to mean that exactly, but I believe in the Big Bang Theory, and I believe in evolution, the evolution of Earth and everything, except for I tried to understand that thing on my own. How Adam and Eve came to existence. I still haven't got to a conclusion, but I'm pretty sure that it will have an explanation. But I believe in science as it is right now. I mean, whatever science tells me, I believe in it.
Okay,
Actually, sorry, go ahead.
So what do you think when you read that the universe was created in seven days?
I mean, if I look at it, it could mean, for example, the particles, or the one particle, or the whatever, I don't know what it's called, that blew up and gave us the Big Bang. It could have been that was created in 7 days. You know what I mean? It's just so open to interpretation.
But a day is just human invention. When the Earth rotates around its poles, we call that a day. It's not an exact period of time. It changed over the evolution.
It could be the same days in heaven or the same days right here. It could be like that, right? Because he's God, he can do anything.
Well, yeah, but I mean, didn't they? I'm sure they must have had an expression, a period of time or an age or something. They could have used almost any word, both in the Bible and the Quran, any word other than the word day. It's one of those things where it was just a very poor choice of words. If the author of these books was trying to convey what you're trying to convey, or close to what you believe, he chose seems like almost deliberately misleading terminology.
And in the Quran, it's actually...
Let Jesse come back, please. Let Jesse come back, please.
So if there was another word that we don't... If there was another unit of time that we don't know about. How are you going to understand that?
Well, like future generations like ourselves would be in a better position to understand. You know,
Right.
he could have just said. I mean, like I said, I'm sure. You know, he could have said, okay, there were 7 periods of time, and then not be very specific. And then it would be much more flexible to interpretation, as opposed to a day, which is, you know, approximately 24 hours, one spinning of the Earth on its axis. Godless, you had something? Sorry.
I just want to point out that it's 6 days in the Quran, not 7.
Oh, well, 6 days, and then, what is it, rested on the 7th. That's, yeah. Right.
In the Quran, he didn't rest it.
I'm sorry?
In the Quran, he didn't rest it.
It doesn't say rest, because if you say rest, you kind of rest is for someone who gets tired. And
that's a very good point, actually. Next time I debate a Christian, I'll remember that.
But even if you say 7 days, that's mean he has, you know, he couldn't done it in 1 day, so he had
yes,
to.
Yes, he could. But,
okay, then you could
say
he could rest it too. So it's not.
That's, I mean, to be honest with you, I remember learning about that in 5th grade, and I said, you know, God rested on the 7th day. The teacher told me, no, God doesn't rest. And I know there's a wisdom and moral why God chose 6 days, not, you know, 1 second to do something to create the universe. I just forgot what it is. But to be honest with you, I don't focus on all that stuff right now, because it really doesn't matter when it comes. For me, when it comes to religion, because if you want to judge religion, you judge it by how it's going to affect people's life, and lives like this life, not the next life.
Haxel, I hope you don't mind. We're going to let you go. Thanks for coming on the show. You're welcome back anytime. Take care. I'm going to skip. Okay, we're going to let on our old friend, where is he? Hassan, who can probably give us a rundown of comparison between Quranic and modern Arabic. Hassan, you with us?
Hello, yes, I'm here.
Salam, thank you for joining us.
Assalamu
alaikum. So you had something to add specifically about the 6 days, and then I'd like to ask you some generic questions about Quranic versus modern Arabic, if you don't mind.
Yep, sure. Let me just get my video. Sorry, hang on a second.
Oh, it's fine.
Okay. First of all, can I just say, great show, guys. I'm really enjoying it. And
thank you.
Hi to Godless. And I just wanted to come back on the 6 days thing. To be honest with you, I mean, I'm not interested in scientific miracles. They were never the reason why I was a Muslim, and then they have nothing to do with me leaving Islam. But there was one verse which there's a few verses in Surah Al-Fusilat, verses 9 to 12. Which describe the 6 days. They give a breakdown of the 6 days, and they say that basically the earth was created in 4 days and the heavens in 2 days. Now, of course, we know that the universe took about 13.9 billion years to form, while the earth took 4.5 billion years, which means that the earth took roughly you know, well, it was a lot shorter. It was, I mean, the Quran is basically saying that the Earth took 66% of the time, and the universe took 33% of the time. It's actually the opposite. It was the universe that took much longer, and the Earth was, you know, much shorter. This, of course, fits very well with the geocentric view at the time, when they thought that it was the Earth that really took all the time, and the universe was just the stars and everything around the Earth. So scientifically, that's incorrect. You know, I mean, I know that Yawm and Ayyam is believed to be periods. That's fine. I'll take that as periods. But if the Earth took 4 periods and the heavens took 2 periods, then that's wrong. But can I, because to be honest with you, I'm not interested in these scientific miracles. They're just a load of nonsense. The Quran for me is just saying, look at these wonderful things. Aren't they great? God made them. Worship God. He's great, and so on. And there was never any intention to bring up any of this nonsense which people are bringing up these days. But I would like to ask Jesse. Assalamu alaikum, Jesse.
عليكم السلام كيف صحتك؟
بخير الحمد لله. أنت وأنت؟
أنا بتكساس. I'm in Texas.
أهلا وسهلا.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just want to say one thing. For me, I mean, my main problem with Islam was hell. Those who know me know that that's my big problem. And I want to ask you this question. If you believe that God is Rahman Rahim, that he is Arham Ar-Rahimin, that he is the most merciful, why would he create people knowing that they would fail his test and then burn eternally in hell? And I'm sure you've read the Quran and you've read the awful verses about burning in hell and the torture and so on, and how, you know,
Yes,
molten
quite
lead
right.
will be poured on their head and their faces melted and their insides shredded, and the fire will, you know, كلما نضجت جلودهم بدلناهم بجلود غيرهم. So how can you justify an eternal torture and rationalize that with a God who is merciful? How, in what way does mercy equate with eternal torture?
Okay, that's a good point. And yeah, you're right. It's quite graphic. And it's like the, you know, it's called Rahba in Islam, which is the last form, you know, to have someone believe in God, you know, to fear the afterlife, to fear for the afterlife. Now, if, okay, you're saying that, you know, the all-merciful God, you're saying that he should, you know, let everyone go to heaven, right? Because he's just so merciful, so merciful, right?
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that why, I mean, if he must punish them, why not just kill them? Why not just make them not exist? Why keep them alive forever? Only for the purpose of burning their skins off and then making their skin new again, over and over again, without end.
Yes. You see, the thing is, for example, right now you know about this, right? You know the information about hell. Now, it's just an incentive so you can make your own choices.
So are you saying that hell is not real?
No, it is real. But the purpose, it's real, is so you can understand that you have choices to make, and God doesn't control your choices; you control your own, right?
Yeah, no, I understand that. Now, let's just say that. I mean, I've rejected Islam. I don't believe I'm an evil person. I'm very good to people. I'm very charitable. Those who know me know I'm a very kind person.
I'm sure.
But I don't understand this eternal hell. It doesn't make any sense to me. And there are a few other things that don't make sense to me as well. And so I have come to reject Islam. After many years, I was a Muslim, but I've come to reject it. Now, if there's anyone who's going to hell, it's going to be me. All right? Why should God keep me alive, torturing me over and over again, burning my skins? You know, every time يصب فوق رؤوسهم الحميم يصهر به ما في بطونهم والجلود, and so on and so on and so on. This is just sadistic. You know, God doesn't have to do that. If I am mistaken, then I am mistaken because of my faulty reasoning, because of my limited understanding. Yani al-aql mahdud. We know that. Okay, my reasoning is flawed and limited, and I'm a stupid guy. Do I deserve this? Terrible, terrible torture. Have you ever burnt your hand, your finger?
Of course not. Not on purpose.
Can you imagine? Not just
Yes,
burning your finger, but your body, not for an hour, not for a day, not for a year, but forever, without end, over and over, and he'll keep replacing it, so you feel that same agony. You know, there was a guy in, I don't know, Central Asia, a horrible tyrant, who killed some Muslims by boiling them in hot oil. I thought, what a disgusting, awful man. How could he do that? But God is going to not just do that, he's going to do it forever.
Yes,
Please.
because
Can you
Because-
think about it?
I mean, I don't know about the technicalities and the reasons and all that, but basically because you did not, if you did not acknowledge God, you know, and go and do the right according to the ways that, you know, He descended upon humans through the Quran. Yeah, I mean, for example, the other day I saw, you know, that you said on the cast, you said that you were drinking wine, for example. Yeah, you're a good person and everything, but for example, this is a sin according to God. You know what I mean? So
Okay.
the point is it's not to show how tyrant he is, but for people to, you know, to lead his way. And I don't think it makes a difference because this is the afterlife we're talking about. No one knows. I mean, it's not going to affect you in this life.
We
Can I
know.
add something?
We know. You know, the Quran is, as you say, very, very graphic. So we know what Allah is going to say. There are 500 references to the words nar and jahannam in the Quran. And this is excluding words like iqab and as-sa'ir and al-hawiya and all the other words. You can hardly turn a page of the Quran without these awful threats and very graphic details of, you know, shajarat al-zaqum, shredding the insides and God knows what. Okay, so I don't believe in the Quran anymore. I know, I believe I just have this life and I drink a little bit of wine. I don't hurt anyone.
Right.
I don't do any bad to anyone, Habibi. What do I do? I drink a little bit of wine, so what? Does that deserve?
No, I'm not saying anything. No. I'm not saying you should go to hell because you're drinking wine. No, it's none of my business. I mean, everyone's free to do whatever they want.
But you
I mean,
brought it up.
No, I'm saying, for example, I mean, you're a good person. Oprah, I was thinking once when I saw Oprah giving all these houses and stuff to her audience, I was thinking, I mean, does it make sense that a person this good goes to hell? You see, the thing is, I came to an answer, which is, you know, the best good to do is through the, you know, through the ways given to us by God. I mean, if I want to talk about my sins, it could last for hours, you know, and you know, just, I mean, you're talking about, you know, the afterlife and stuff. I mean, you're gonna have to ask stuff that the answer to is by asking God Himself. I mean,
You think I didn't in all my years? Look, all I have is Allah didn't give me ilm al-ghayb.
right.
Okay? He didn't give you ilm al-ghayb. All He gave me was this stupid mind in my head. And I know it's very stupid, and I know I don't understand many things, but I've tried. God knows I've tried. I've tried very hard. He told me He is ghani. He doesn't need anything. He has no need for ibadah. He has no need to create. But He did create. And He created us knowing that billions of people will fail His test, in inverted commas, very ambiguous, very dubious test, very confusing test. He could have made things very clear, but He didn't. And He knew these people would fail His test, and He knew that He would torture them forever. He is also Arham ar-Rahimin, the most merciful of the merciful. If it was me, and I'm just a stupid human who's not merciful like Him, I wouldn't create these people. I wouldn't. Would you?
So you, I mean, so to all these people who were created, you want them to say that I wish I was not created?
I'm sorry. If He knows, if I knew that I was going to create these people and they would suffer for eternity, I wouldn't create them. Would you? Would you knowingly create people
personally?
that you know?
Me personally, no, I wouldn't do that.
No, neither me, nor anyone I know.
But I don't think that's the point. I think the point is, I mean, the way I look at it is, we're humans. We're here right now, okay, and we have the choice. That's the main thing you can take from it, is that you have a choice.
I'd like to make a brief comment, and then Godless had something to say. You know, it's amazing. Not that long ago, I had a Christian woman that I've known for many years basically make this insinuated threat of hellfire. You know, she is one of the few people, I think, who knows that I'm an atheist, and that will go long periods of time not discussing it at all, and then she'll, you know, she comes, you know, sort of armed and ready one day and says, oh, you know, there's consequences for not obeying, blah, 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 etc. And it's always quite disturbing to see people who are normally very, you know, meek and mild, gentle and kind, act as part-time mafia Shylocks on the behalf of the deity they worship. And what was funny is we talked about she was talking about some other people who were involved in some crisis of faith, and you know, I've said in hopefully not too inflammatory a way, you know, that my stance is the entire point is moot because you're both wrong, because the whole predicates you're working under are false. And she let load with, well, you know, I forget her exact wording, but, you know, well, there's consequences, there's a penalty for not obeying, and then stops with this very pregnant, dramatic pause, like I'm supposed to be sort of shivering and quivering in my chair with my arms up, you know, please don't. And I thought it's really, you know, maybe that still works on them to this day. I mean, I don't know if I can ingrain in them how incredibly unafraid I am of what I believe to be a purely imaginary punishment. But I said to her that, you know, recently I participated in some charity that was giving goats to very impoverished families in the third world, because, you know, the fur is useful to them, the milk is useful, you know, their poo is useful as a fertilizer. So goats are a pretty prized possession if you really don't have a lot of resources and you're living in this agrarian primitive setting, right? So, you know, we're buying goats for poor families. Now, if I were to get a letter from one of the families that I sent a goat to, and it said, and I said, oh, well, I got a letter, this is great. And it says, you know, dear Atheismo, fuck you. I hate you. I hope you, you know, get a sharp stick in the eye. You know, sincerely, oh, thanks for the goat, asshole. You know, you're never going to get it back. And I thought, you know, if I got that and they just, these people sort of, you know, went out of their way to insult me in this way, you know, it might irritate me a little bit. I might be incredulous at their lack of gratitude, but I wouldn't seek revenge on them. I still live in the comfortable first world, and they live in poverty and squalor and misery. And I think that's, you know, it's nowhere near the disparity in comfort and safety and security that an all-powerful, magical, you know, supernatural being experiences versus these little ants that crawl on the earth and die of you know, simple, you know, waterborne diseases. I don't understand, you know, how someone who has so much could despise people who have so little of you know, infractions of a lack of acknowledgement or gratitude. Anyway, Godless, you had a comment?
Yes, one of the verses that haunted me when I was young, it wasn't a verse about the hell and the pain. It was actually a verse about who are the people who are the people are going to get into heaven. He's talking about in Surah Al-Waqi'ah, verse 56:12. It said, in the gardens of pleasure, a company of former peoples and a few of the later peoples. So it says, ثُلَّةٌ مِّنَ الْآخِرِينَ وَقَلِيلٌ ثُلَّةٌ مِّنَ الْأَوَّلِينَ وَقَلِيلٌ مِّنَ الْآخِرِينَ. That means the majority of the human beings are damned to hell, and millions of the people who lived before Islam and after Islam are actually going to hell.
Okay.
So it's not, it's only, I thought, I was disappointed because I thought you just have to be a Muslim or a good person and then you are going to get into heaven. Actually, this is not the case, which makes people go into extremes and call themselves out because they want to make sure they get into heaven.
A lot of Muslims will go to hell before they go to heaven.
But why should anyone go to hell, Jesse? Look, we're all flawed human beings. We all make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. If people don't believe, it's not because it's not a choice. They believe because they find things that are unbelievable. If I ask you now, can you choose to believe that Jesus is the Son of God? Can you choose that?
No.
No. That's because you find it unbelievable. It seems that God's test largely rests upon where and which family you are born to. Because if you are born to a Muslim family, you will grow up believing that's the truth. If you're born to a Christian family, you will grow up to, and so on. And our perception is shaped by our context and our biology, by what's around us, what our parents teach us, and so on. We are flawed. We are limited in our understanding, and if we disbelieve, it's not because we are evil or arrogant, but because it doesn't make sense. Why should anyone deserve eternal torture? Why should they have been created in the first place when he knew that they would be like, that they would end up in eternal torture? Let me ask you this question as well. I disbelieve in Islam and Christianity, not because I don't think there's a God. I don't know if there's a God or not. There may be a God. But I disbelieve because I cannot believe he is a sadist. I think God, if he exists, would be better than this. Do I deserve eternal torture because I thought better of God? And imagine that you were wrong and actually the God you believe in doesn't exist, and that there may be a God, but he is not a sadist. Who is really insulting him? Is it you or me?
Okay, that's a good question. You see, the point of hell is, it's not like, okay, you said if I believe in something, if there's another God than mine, he's gonna punish me. That's right, but I'm a Muslim because I chose this Islamic path. Because when I grew up, I mean, of course I grew up in a Muslim society, but however, when I was old enough to understand and make my own decisions, I looked at what other options I have. For example, there's reasons why I'm not Christian, and there's reasons why I'm not Jewish, and there are reasons why I'm not atheist, and there are reasons why I'm Muslim. Just as simple as that. I'm not Muslim because I was born into Islam. The Quran itself tells you, in many occasions, don't follow your fathers, your grandfathers. Look for your own path, and whatever suits you, you do it.
I used to say the same thing. Because I wasn't practicing up until the age of 19. My father is Egyptian. My mother's English, but she took Shahada. They weren't religious, though. Neither of them were religious. And I grew up without being religious. But when I started searching for a meaning to my life, I wanted direction. I wanted to know where am I going? What is life about? Of course, I looked at all the different religions, and I used to say, I started them all, but I found Islam was the truth. Look, let's be honest. You and I reached for Islam because that was the one that, had that emotion. Even though we were not practicing, even though my parents were not religious, it was the one that was there, that was easy accessible, that made more sense to us. It was the one which, if we had been born into Christian families and not been practicing and then become religious, I guarantee we would have become Christian, but we didn't because we were in Muslim families. So, yeah, I used to say the same thing, that I chose, but you didn't really. There was still this emotional attachment, this sense of identity. I was Egyptian. I wanted to, explore my heritage, and Islam was part of my heritage. And then I became very devout and religious. And I used to tell people, no, I looked at religions and I chose it. But did I really? Did you really?
Yes, I did. Let me tell you an example. You see, in Islam, there's a wisdom behind why something is not allowed or something is encouraged. Just as simple as that.
May I interject here?
Yes, sir.
So, for example, homosexuality, according to Hadith in Sunan Abu Dawood, is punishable by death, and the Quran rants very profusely on how evil this sin of the people of Lot is and how it's an abomination and so forth. Now, but you said there's a reason behind the prohibition. Really? Let's have a look at homosexuality for a second. First of all, despite what the Quran says, it's found throughout nature, is been extremely well documented in numerous animal species. Not only just like, you know, two male beetles accidentally having sex because they, you know, they're so stupid. I mean, animals that, male or female animals that only pursue each other for sexual needs, like actual homosexual or lesbian animals within species. So it's not unnatural. Get that out of the way. Secondly, I mean, well, I won't even go into the argument of well, actually, yeah. You know, the second point is people say it's unnatural. Let's pretend that it was unnatural for a second, okay? You know what else is unnatural? What we're communicating through right this second. Computers, not natural. Beds, not natural. Cars, not natural. Thank John Covino for this argument. So then, okay, so then get that out of the way. So then what else is there against it? Okay, but they're two men. I mean, there's two adult, mature men who love each other or who want to engage in sexual activity with each other. It's not like incest. There's no third party here being affected. It's not unnatural. It doesn't cause anyone else harm. So all we've got is two consenting adults who wish to engage in sexual activity with each other. It doesn't cause earthquakes. So then why is it prohibited? You said that everything in Islam makes sense and has a good reason behind it. So what is the reason behind prohibiting homosexuality and commanding them to be killed?
Thank you very much for that question. You see, in Islam, homosexuality is not a crime. The act of sex between two males or two females, that's I don't know how it goes between two females. I don't know how about the technicalities, but I know I'm just gonna say it, like anal sex between two men, that's the crime, and it has to be in public or seen. That's one thing, and of course it's a natural thing, or it has an existence in nature. You see, a lot of sociologists would argue that homosexuality is not good for family.
Oh, who? Name one credible source. No, I'm sorry. The overwhelming majority of scientific medical bodies have said that homosexuality is innate and it does not affect childbearing at all.
1 second.
What do you mean it does not affect? I mean,
it doesn't
just
matter.
Think about it. Okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it.
Just think about it. If 50% of the society.
Hold on, Max. Let them. I'm sorry, I brought in the new caller prematurely. After Kling and Jesse wrap this up, Mex has another completely different subject for us.
Okay, sorry. Continue, Jesse.
Yes. If 50% of the population became homosexual, what's going to happen? I mean, the percentage of newborns is gonna be diminished.
But
now,
see, homosexuality isn't a choice. Homosexuality, the overwhelming consensus of the scientific community is that homosexuality, you're born with it.
Yes, born with it, like it's in your genes, or you're talking about the way you grew up.
No, it's nature, not nurture. It's innate. It's not something that you can change.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm not a scientist. I mean, I can't argue about that. But what I know is, okay, in order for you to have a strong society, you gotta have strong family, or strong basis for family. In order for you to have that, you gotta have male and female.
Well, I mean,
okay, Kling, let's we're running short on time. Let's let Mex bring in his topic. And but since we might end abruptly, since we're near the end of the show, I want to thank everyone for coming. I'd like to thank everyone for coming to watch. I'd like to thank all the panelists, and especially to Jesse, because I know that it takes a lot of courage to come on a panel where you're the sole dissenting opinion. So we really appreciate it. You're always welcome to come back, Jesse. And if you have any other Muslim friends who also would like to come offer counterpoint, they're more than welcome to do so. So Mex, you had something about Hitchens and politics.
Yeah. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks for the show. I enjoy it very much. My topic I would like to introduce is about Christopher Hitchens. Mm-hmm. He was a left-wing person, very much a Marxist, and he had some issues with the left-wing liberal politic, and he moved to the right wing. Some people say, I don't think so, but of course this has something to do with Islam too. Can you help me, please?
I'm not sure where you were going. You know, it is pretty well known, people who followed Hitchens, that he had a drastic change in his politics, and I think a lot of people, liberals to moderates, who followed him for his religious writings, a lot of them raised an eyebrow over his newfound political positions. I mean, you know, the thing is, you know, I think, you know, Hitchens he said a lot of really profound things, but I certainly don't agree with him on everything, and you know, that goes for anyone who I think is insightful or that I've ever had admiration for. And you know, like, for example, I hope this isn't too trite a way for me to tie this into the Islamic discussion, but you know, I talk to, you know, Muslims about Muhammad, and they're very adamant that he was, you know, perfect and flawless in his words and deeds and so forth and so on. I just can't fathom that. I can't fathom that even if he thought he was the best man who ever lived, to really think that he was perfect. Same with, of course, Christians and Jesus. You know, if he thought he was really good and said a lot of good things, did a lot of good things, in both their cases, I'm not really entirely convinced that would be my appraisal. I can't imagine having to commit yourself to thinking that someone was perfect. You know, I mean, you know, even like the example I raised with the founding fathers owning slaves. You know, someone can make a lot of positive contributions and be held in very high regard, and I still have no issue, and don't think anyone else should have an issue, in pointing out where they're wrong, where their reasoning is flawed, or simply where they disagree on something purely subjective. Anyone else?
I would point out that Hitchens was socially liberal. He just became, how would you say, conservative in some manners of, well, he took on positions that were close to the neoconservative positions in some areas.
Anyone else?
Perfect is not the right word to use.
Okay.
When describing Muhammad. I mean, sure he was his acts say that he was better than, you know, most humans, but the person who was perfect is God, and the angels are the ones who are it's impossible for them to commit wrong, because that's the way they were created. And there were several instances where, you know, who scholars say that Muhammad could have handled the situation better, meaning that he's not perfect. For example, he once told an old lady, he told her, no old person will go into heaven. He was just kidding with her, but what he meant is she will become younger and then she will go into heaven. But what that led her to, you know, to cry and not pray for 3 days, and he went and apologized to her.
So wait, I'm sorry. He he actually told an old woman that old people don't go to heaven as a joke?
Yeah.
That's pretty fucked up.
Yes,
it's not a joke.
Wait,
that's true.
It's not like that. I explained it. He was just messing with her.
Right, I understand, but still.
That's upon the basis that everyone becomes younger and then goes to heaven. You know what I mean? So she will go to heaven, but she's going to be young again, and then she will go to heaven. She's not going to be an old person in heaven. She's going to be a younger person in heaven. You know what I mean?
Godless, you were about to say something?
Physically, I mean.
No, I just about to say the story is famous. I mean, you know.
Is it a folk story, or is it from one of the Sahih collections or something like that?
I guess from the Sierra, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow. Damn.
No, but, you know, it's just perfect is a description of God, you know, kind of a description of God. And angels are not allowed, they can't make, they were made like that, and they only do whatever God tells them to do. But humans have a choice. And
so,
yeah.
If God wanted to be worshipped, why did he create human? And
well, that's a little bit too deep. we have to wrap the show up. But yeah, I think that's a great note to end on. I think it's like a similar dichotomy with people. You know, some Muslims believe in miracles from a certain verse and some don't. I mean, I've talked to some Muslims who say no, Muhammad was perfect. He never did anything wrong. And then there are people like yourself who say, well, he was very good but not perfect. It's just one of those things. But man, I can't believe I didn't hear that story before. Old people don't get into heaven. That guy had a hell of a sense of humor. Okay, well, I think we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you again, everyone, for coming. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.